Welcome to Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny, presented by Bell Slogan. I am your host, Reggie Key, and today I have with me Virgil Greene. Virgil, thanks for being on the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit before we actually got the real conversation going. I just want to reiterate again. You say that you were referred to this series through my cousin Eric, who you went to school with back in the day at Shaw University, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
We like that is correct. Yes.
All right. So Eric really appreciate. He wasn't quite sure what to expect with this interview, but when we finished, he was like, "Yo, this was dope." So I'm glad that he
Okay.
had a chance to think of
Okay.
someone else who could walk through this and benefit from it. It only helps me out and it helps you out too. Hopefully,
Okay.
I need to see it to the end. So with that said, I want to start officially with my first of a series of questions, Virgil, and that is, do you see yourself as a genius?
I wouldn't say that I see myself as a genius. No, no, sir.
Okay.
I have to be honest with you.
Okay, no, that's all I ask for, man. Is just honesty, and that's fine. Most people do not. So you're in good company. Most the minority of people that I've interviewed, and I've done this about 30 times, answer yes. Most people say like, nah, not me. So then
Right.
my next question for you, my follow-up for you is this. Um, who do you think of when you think of this word genius? Like, what's the first image or name that pops up in your mind?
Someone to me, I guess like Bill Gates or something along those lines.
Okay.
I would think as a genius. Um, yeah, individuals like that. The gentleman, I guess the guy who owns Tesla as well. They kind of put me in the mindset of someone who I would consider to be a genius because of what they've done, I guess. So
Yeah, and rightly so, right? I'm not here to take away that title or to tell you that they're not geniuses. They are
right.
geniuses in their own right. However, there's this thing. So it's interesting that you picked today to interview because I just did this workshop I'm at my church right now. We're doing a summer academy vacation Bible school basically. And I did this
Yes.
workshop with some students. This whole concept is a book that I've written and a workshop that I do for whomever any audience can receive this information and hopefully grow from it. And so I had some teenagers in the other room just there yesterday, and I had them actually had me write down some of the words that come to mind. Or I say, well, what do you think a genius is? And it was
Hmm.
interesting, Virgil, because we had this board full of these different traits that they identified to be a genius. But when I went through and said, and I pointed to each of the individual traits that this room of like 13 boys and girls chose to have me write down, I said, well, who identifies with this trait? And who
Hmm.
identifies with this trait? And by and large, maybe only three people identified with some of these like 10 or 12 traits that were listed and attributed to genius. And so I'm like, well, this helps me understand why when I asked you guys if you were a genius, only a certain amount of you raised your hand. The majority of you were like, because even the traits that they put down as genius, they don't identify it for themselves. They were traits like, a problem solver, it was academic related type stuff. And what I'm here to really dismantle and separate is that genius is not all academics, it's not all science and technology, it's not all high IQ, it's not what we've traditionally allowed ourselves to be programmed to think. And so again, you saying Bill Gates and you saying what's my man's name, Elon Musk, like
Elon
they
Musk. Yes.
are geniuses, but they're just one type of genius. What we're going to come
Okay.
to understand is that there are plenty of geniuses in the world that are just not realizing that they shouldn't be defining their genius by somebody else's genius. You feel me?
Oh, yes. I follow you. Yeah, I do.
Okay. So can I tell you who the number one answer is that I get most times when I ask this question? Who comes to mind when you think of this word genius?
Yeah, because I was going to ask.
It's Albert Einstein. Everybody
Yeah.
at large,
Right.
and not even like talking amongst themselves and trying to figure out and come to a consensus. People just individually come up with this name on their own. He is
Hmm.
the the benchmark for who most of us attribute and think of when we hear this word genius.
Gotcha.
I'm not trying to take anything away from Einstein. I mean, the things that he theorized are still being proven to this day, some 60, 70 years later, after he passed away and after he left his mark on the world. However, he has there's a quote that purportedly comes from him that really begins to help us expand our idea of what genius really is. I'm gonna say this quote for you. You let me know if you've heard it before, and then let me know how it is. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, Virgil, it goes like this. If you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid.
I haven't heard that quote specifically, but I've heard like a parallel, a parallel situation like that. So no,
Okay.
I get it. I get it.
How's that hitting you? Like, what's that saying to you?
What it says to me is that you're taking something that really doesn't have any hands or legs or feet or anything and try and expect it to climb a tree where it's superior in the water and swimming.
Yeah.
So you're trying to put in a total different environment to where it really has no use. It has no reason or purpose to be in that environment, and you won't see the greatness that it actually possesses. So,
oh wow, you getting at it, Virgil? You're getting at
it. Yeah,
Virgil,
I get that 100%.
yeah.
Say that again.
Do you see the parallel to what we've been talking about and what this quote is bringing to light?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, if we stick to this metaphor, and I'm gonna carry it for a little bit, this metaphor of this tree and this fish. In this metaphor, if Einstein entered into this metaphor, this quote that we have, he would be a bear. Bears climb trees, easy. Right. They're equipped. That's their environment. That's their element. And so, rightly so, if you judge a bear by how well it can climb a tree, you're going to tell it that this thing is a genius. This thing is operating at a high level. Right. But you can't compare how the design of a fish, like you said, is not meant for water. It's not meant for the land. It has fins, gills, scales. It's streamlined for the water. That's its element. That's where it functions. That's where it thrives. That's where, like you said, you will see it take off and you will see the high functionality that it has. But somewhere along the line in this quote, somebody has looked at this fish and said, forget how it was designed. I can see how it's made. But for me, I needed to climb this tree. And somewhere along the line, if the fish begins to listen to what this person is saying and forget how it was designed, then it'll be like, man, something must be wrong with me, man. I can't climb this tree. But it was never meant to climb the tree in the first place.
Right.
That's literally, the fish out of water syndrome, right? Where we feel like I don't belong here. And most of us, by not saying that we're geniuses, we're saying I don't belong in this whole element of genius, like an Einstein or Elon Musk, Bill Gates. Yeah, they belong there, but I don't. And I don't think that's true. Okay. I think that each of these three names, that the two names that you mentioned, Albert Einstein, have their own element, but we are not meant to function in the same element. I studied physics, but not to the degree where I can start theorizing and telling you everything about the theory of relativity and C squared. That's not my thing. And so it's probably not your thing either, but that's okay. The thing that we have to figure out is, just like if you were to see this, what's going to happen with this fish if it stays out of water too long?
It's going to die.
It's going to die. And so somebody who sees this fish struggling and flopping around and knows that, why is this fish out of water? Somebody get it back into the stream, river, whatever, where it belongs. Somebody should be able to tell it, like, hey, get it in its lane, get it in its element, right? And so I feel like I've been put on this planet to help people figure out what their lane is. What's your element? So that we can get you to be thriving and get you to recognize that you do have something amazing to contribute to the rest of the world. It doesn't look necessarily like what somebody else's genius is.
Okay, I got you.
So the way that I do that, the way that I've been doing that is I had this revelation that genius is actually not necessarily academic. It's not about IQ, but it's about three things. And those three things are passion, talent, and purpose. right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm saying that if you can identify what you're passionate about and what your talent is, and then what your purpose is, then you can unlock the genius that's on the inside of you.
Okay.
Are you
All right.
interested?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
All right,
Yeah,
all
I'm
right, let's
interested.
go. So remember I was telling you, like I started developing this concept for students, middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students. And you know, it can be really hard to get them to talk, right? And so one
Yes.
of the first questions that I have for them, outside of asking, hey, are you a genius? Because I already know what the answer is going to be for that. It's always the majority of people are looking around like, I'm not. Nope.
Right, right, right,
Right.
right.
And so to engage them, my next question for them is, okay, well, tell me what you hate. And they're like, oh, you ain't said nothing but a word. Like they get excited at that
Okay.
point. All of a sudden, all these hands start coming up and I get all these answers. But the reason why I'm asking them to tell me what you hate is because I read this book, Virgil, a while ago called The Assignment by Mike Murdoch. And this guy has this really amazing theory that pretty much changed my life because he said, hey,
Okay.
if you want to figure out what your assignment is on this planet, then what you need to do is figure out what it is that you hate. Because, oh, you lean back. All right, I'm gonna pause right there. When I see somebody
No.
lean back and look up, I know to
No,
pause.
because no. I mean, because I hear what you're saying, but I never looked at it in that perspective. But it makes sense. You
Tell me how
know,
it's making it make sense to you.
how is it making make sense? Well,
Mhm.
if there is something that you have a strong disdain, hate, however you want to categorize it, for, then you're going to be all the more passionate about making sure that you don't have to deal with, see that, or experience it. So
Yep.
that's yeah, it's gonna be a driving force.
Yeah, driving force. That's it. Like when I ask,
Right.
I do these word associations. So after I do a word association with genius, then I do a word association with passion. And most of the time, people think of love, but I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna come from the exact opposite end of the spectrum and
Right. Right.
hate, because it does become a driving force. It becomes the gas in your tank. When you figure
Correct.
out most of the time the thing that's broken in the world that affects us in a negative way, that has traumatized us or has traumatized someone that we love, is the thing that we're like, man, somebody should do something about that. And when it
Yes.
really gets under your skin, when it really irks you, then whenever you see it, you got to say something about it. Ain't somebody gonna fix this yet? Somebody should do
Right.
something about this. And if you find yourself, Virgil, constantly saying that about one particular thing or several, because I have several things that I hate personally, but when you find
Okay.
yourself saying somebody should fix that, guess who that somebody actually is?
It's you.
It's you. It took me a long time
Right.
to figure this out. I'm married. It took me a long time to figure this out. My wife, I am the one who does the laundry in our house from start to finish, because I would wash the load, right, and then like she wouldn't. I'm like, all right, if I put it in the washer, then you should put it in the dryer. But she wasn't
Right.
doing it.
Right.
It's supposed to be
She
all
don't do
around,
it.
right? So I'm like, after a while, I'm like, well, I should probably just go ahead and put them in the dryer because I mean, clearly I'm the one that's focusing on this, and she ain't thinking about it. And so then
Right.
what happened, I went to the
Right.
dryer. I'm
Right.
like, all right,
Right.
now it's in the basket. Hey, look, fair is fair. You should fold them. But she's not a good folder. She don't know how to
She
fold
don't
clothes.
do. She don't
No
do it like
disrespect.
you do.
I'm
Right.
not going to throw her under the bus.
No, I
But what
got you.
happened is, Virgil, one day I had the epiphany, and I'm like, I'm the only one who had a father that was in the military who taught me how to fold clothes real good. I'm the only
Right.
one who's paying attention to these clothes. Guess what? I'm the one that should probably be doing it all. And
Correct.
once it happened, it clicked. And I'm like, and that's just my role. I'm just like, all right, I'm the one that is focusing on this all the time. I have the means and the know-how to do this the right way. So I should just do it. Because she would fold the clothes and I'd be like, this is wrong. I gotta do it again. I'm like, we can save some time
Right.
with
Right.
thing and
That is
start
very true.
playing around. Right. And so on
I
a
got it.
larger scale, outside of your home, there are some systemic things. Like if you were to ask this fish, let's say this fish can talk. I guess we in Dr. Seuss's world, right? Let's say this
Right.
fish can talk. If you were to ask this fish, hey fish, what do you hate? He would tell you, I think he would tell you, I hate this tree, man. This tree is making me feel dumb. I hate that people keep coming to me telling me that I should be climbing this tree. And if I don't climb this tree, something's wrong with me.
Right.
Right? And they
Right.
would want
Right.
to,
Right.
do something about it. And so that is to your point, I love the words that you use of driving force, because once you tap into that thing and you're like, all right, this thing that's broken in the world, I'm the one that has something in me to fix it, then you won't care whether you're taking it out in stride or if you're taking small chunks of it. You're going to keep chipping away at this thing so that every time you see it, like, no, not today, like, not while I'm here. This is not going to operate. This is not going to hurt somebody else. This is not going to be a detriment to somebody. I'm going to eradicate this thing. It becomes, Virgil, a David and Goliath moment. Right?
Okay.
David saw this giant. He didn't care what his stature was versus the giant. He was like, I don't care how tall he is. This guy has to go. He is talking about the God that we all claim to serve, but he was the only one that was courageous enough to be like, ain't nobody gonna do nothing about what this cat is saying. He's been talking trash for 40 days. So he was like, you know what? I got you. Give me my slingshot. I'm gonna take this dude. Stop playing around. He said, I dealt with lions and bears watching my daddy's sheep. I got something for this giant, right? And we know how that giant failed. And that's what passion will do. When you got that behind you, like, yo, you will plow through, you will find a way to get through this thing and fix this brokenness that not only affects you, but affects other people in a negative way. So I've been talking for a little bit. I mean, I'm gonna pause for a second. What you thinking?
No, I agree with what you're saying. Like you said, I mean, when you have that gas in your tank, what it is that you hate, you're gonna use that gas to get to your destination. Yes, so, sir. I mean, you're gonna do whatever you need to do to get to where you need to get to. If that's eliminating homelessness, if that's it, you know what I'm saying, fixing, you know what I'm saying, building a bridge, whatever it is, if it's bothersome to you to that degree, put it like that, then you're gonna use that trouble to get there. So I completely agree with what you're saying. So yeah.
Okay. So look, we gotta, in order for this to have impact for you though, we gotta make it personal. So my question to you, Virgil, is what do you hate?
Ooh, what do I hate? That's interesting. I'm not a hateful person, but things I don't like a lot. A problem for me is the wealth gap between different cultures. That's a problem for me. And I feel like it stems from a lack of proper conversations at the dinner table. So whereas certain cultures had conversations beforehand, others did not, and learning it in a later stage. So for me, that's a problem, because I want to see everybody on the same playing field, same level, and able to not just survive but thrive. I want to see everybody happy and thrive. So that's something that's a problem for me.
Okay, inequity, inequality, right?
There you go.
In this country, everybody's supposed to have the same inalienable rights, right?
Correct.
That's not true. We know that has not been true historically, and we know. I mean, you're being a little. I'm gonna be more direct about it. The people that were brought into this country as slaves weren't told how to generate generational wealth, and because they were told that, hey, you're 3/5 of a person.
That is correct.
That is correct. You're a human being, so you don't get the same rights as everybody else does. Native Americans, hey, y'all, we're gonna take your land and make sure that we put rules in place that prevent you from being successful. The only thing that you're good for is manual labor, free, right? And so as these other, we'll call them colonizers, as these colonizers were establishing generational wealth for their families and building a country on the back of minorities.
Back of others, correct.
Those minorities, though they had a skill set that actually built this country, weren't allowed to have the same economic thriving based off of their skill sets and their natural talents as others, the colonizers.
100% spot on. I just didn't know how to word it, being that you're recording the interview.
I do this a lot, man.
I want to be a little bit more respectful, you know what I'm saying? Because
I mean,
it is 100% correct. That's 100% correct. Yes.
And it's funny because even the youth that I talk to, they see it too, because I started getting some things like, hey, I hate hatred and racism and you know, inequality. They'll drop some stuff on you. They're observant. And so once you let me pause for a second, because a lot of my stories are going to come from the workshops that I've had with students. So let me give you a good example of how powerful this is when you tap into your passion, because your passion is your element. Like the fish is to water what you are to your passion.
Right.
So I went to a school one time. It was an elementary school. Sometimes I do try to talk to elementary kids. Sometimes they don't have the right focus, but a seed is a seed. When you plant it, it's planted, whether or not they receive the moment or not. And so I was asked to come in to talk to some third, fourth, and fifth graders. All of them were minority students. They were third, fourth, and fifth graders, about 10 of them. All of them were put in the same class for the entire day. We would have called it special ed back in the day. What they call it now is an IEP, an individual education plan, right? And so I came in there, and one of my first questions was, hey, what do you hate? And you know, the teacher's starting to sweat. I know that's uncomfortable. I know when I ask people, are you a genius? And when I say, what do you hate? That makes people uncomfortable. They're like,
right.
I don't know if I do get people being like, I don't hate anything. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like whatever word, what don't you like, right? But I know with kids, they don't find that word hate. So the teacher is getting nervous. She's like, who do we just let in here that's about to just have these kids telling us what they hate, right? Now, go back to the fish again and imagine that these kids, this fish represents these kids. The fish hates this tree, which represents the system that's making them feel like they don't belong, like this fish doesn't belong, right? So these little boys, when I asked them what they hated, though they can never agree on anything, they will argue about what game to play, when to play it, who was cheating, who wasn't, when we eating, right? Though they could never agree on anything when I was with them in their presence, all of them said the same thing to me pretty much at the same time. They all hated the same thing, and it made this teacher sweat. What do you think they all told me they hated? What's making them feel like a fish out of water, like they don't belong, stuck in this class all day?
The administration, the school system. I would, right? Yeah. School. Okay.
It was like, school, Mr. Key. Now what? They was like looking at me like, you just messed your whole workshop up, didn't we? I said, actually, they didn't. I was like, let me explain to you why you hate school. I said, I agree. I see why you would hate school. I see why, you know, you being used, because, you know, I would sit in the classroom and I would feel a certain way. I would look out the window of the door and I would see the kids, all the other kids walking by, going to their classes, looking in like, you know, and feeling like almost like a fish in a bowl. Now, you know, now we move from the fish being on water trying to climb a tree to a fish in a bowl where everybody's just kind of gawking at you, right? And I'm like, you should feel like you hate school because the school system is broken. It makes you feel like you don't belong. You're basically being marginalized and pushed to the side and being like, you don't fit in here. You have ADHD, you have ADD, you have all these different things that you know, genius is all about positive labels, but these young men have received nothing but negative labels. You're disruptive, you're emotionally disturbed, whatever, that put them in this class. And so even Virgil, when I tried to put a positive label on him, I said, you're a genius. They laughed at me. Matter of fact, no, they didn't laugh at me. They were offended. They was like, don't call me no genius. And I'm like, wow, like you're so conditioned and programmed to being told that you're less than, that when somebody says you're more than, like you scoff at it. And so I said, let me explain this to you. I said, look, there are like 8 different learning styles. At most, the schools are only coming at you from 3. Those 3 are visual, auditory, and like a left brain thinker. Left brain thinkers are logical. They like math. I'm a left brain thinker, actually. I love math. I'm weird. Right?
No, you're not weird.
You like math too?
I don't like math, but I'm very logical.
Right.
Let me reword that. I like counting money. Let me put it like that.
Hey,
I like that math.
Yeah, I think everybody like that math, right?
Right. So.
But check it, like I was telling them, like, look, if you don't speak one of these 3 learning styles, these learning languages that the schools pretty much give you all your information and tell you to learn through, then you're gonna feel like I don't belong. Like I don't understand what you're saying. This information is literally being given to you in another language that you don't comprehend because that's not how you're built. You're built, you know, I think a lot of them are built to be kinesthetic learners, meaning they gotta move around to process the information. But hey, look, when you start moving around the classroom too much, what gets told to you? Sit down, be still.
Right.
Be exploratory, meaning they gotta like touch and feel. But when you start touching and feeling on stuff, hey, kick your hands to yourself. And so now they're just like being suppressed, basically, like, I hate this place. And I'm like, look, but that's only half the equation. I'm like, look, if you understand that the thing that you hate that's broken is the thing that you were meant to fix, then what you'll do is, instead of running away from school and saying, I hate this place and leaving it behind you, you will run towards it. You will go get educated and let your learning style become your teaching style and go back to the system and bring to it what was missing from it when you were in school.
Okay.
So if you're a kinesthetic learner, now you become a kinesthetic teacher, and guess what? You'll reach other kinesthetic learners, and now they're not feeling left out. Now, the staff of the school is more robust, and they can say, hey, look, maybe we should divide out the students by the learning styles, because we have enough teachers. We have all the teachers that we need to represent all the learning styles so that we reach these people who learn in these different ways. That changes the system. That fixes the system. That revolutionizes the game.
Yeah. Right. You every step is made a small step towards the greater impact and change. So yeah, like you said, the student learned a certain type of way, he came back and taught a certain type of way to reach the other kids that learn the same way he did. So yeah, you're making adjustments along the way, which that makes sense.
And so, any system that involves human beings is going to have some brokenness to it. It's just because there's systems that we put in place that work, but don't allow everyone to thrive. So we looked at the school system, but there are other industries that have the same thing going on, where there's the same group of people who are allowed to progress while other people keep getting put on, probation and reviews. Like, you need to go, you need to just you need a timeout. You need to make sure that you understand how we do things instead of making sure the system is robust and reflexive enough to adjust to them. And so this can really begin to address the brokenness in the world. I believe that the reason why the world remains broken is because the people who are equipped to fix it don't realize that they have something to contribute and offer, because they've been pushed to the side for the majority of the time. Right. And the crazy thing about it, Virgil, is sometimes we push ourselves to the side. That's I'm not a genius. When you say I'm not a genius, you're basically saying, like, I don't really have anything. I don't have anything great to offer. But I believe everybody does have something unique and great to offer.
Okay. No, I get what you're saying. I definitely do. Yeah. And that's because of like you said, like you mentioned with the kids, when you ask them the question, they have been so conditioned and programmed to think that way that they aren't geniuses, and that's why they scoffed at it originally. Because again, you've been conditioned to program to think that way based off, like you said, the three things that they focus on in school. And if they're not thriving in those areas, of course, they're not going to feel that they have anything to offer. So yeah, and that carries on into adulthood if you don't address it.
You'll carry it, and it'll be like this little kink in your armor that makes you feel insecure when you get around it. You're like, oh. Now when you have children, you hear this a lot. Somebody will come with this math and be like, Daddy, can you help me? I don't do math. I can't help you. Like, almost get offended that the kid is asking you for help. Like, they just need help. They don't mean to trigger you, but it becomes a trigger for a lot of them. Right? We get frustrated and mad, like, because you're like, you pointing out something that I'm not good at.
No, I'm not good at, right?
But it's not that you're not good. You were just never given an opportunity to learn it in a way that goes hand in hand with how you process information. And so, beyond just thinking about teachers and things, let's get back to this whole brokenness. Let's just get it real basic. So if you were in your house and you saw that something was broken, and you kind of looked at it and figured out, like, okay, I can do this myself. I can fix this. I don't have to call a mechanic. I don't know how handy you are. I'm like quasi handy.
Okay.
I can do some things, but if it gets too complicated, I'm like, nope, I tap out. I'm gonna get somebody.
Correct. No.
Right.
I'm along those lines.
But if you felt like it was something that you could do yourself, what's the first thing that you would look for to fix something that's broken in your house?
The first thing I would look for to fix something, that, depending on what's broken, then I can determine what tool I would need to fix it.
There you go. You would look for the right tool for the job. Right. You wouldn't go get a hammer when a screw is loose. You wouldn't go get a hammer to try and bang that screw in. You would get a screwdriver, right?
That's not going to work.
Yeah, that's not. It'll work, but It's just gonna break something. It's not gonna be
Right.
the wrong tool for the wrong job, right?
Correct.
So remembering that your passion is related to, revolves around something that's broken in the world, then the natural question should become, well, how do I fix it? Once I identify that, hey, look, I don't like this, how do I fix it? And it's the same principle. You need to look for the right tool that you already possess to fix that thing that's broken. And the tool that you possess, Virgil, is your talent.
Okay.
Right? So I'm a minister. So a lot of sometimes my metaphors, my parables are ways to help us understand and will bring in like biblical characters. And so when I think of like a tool, and most of the time when we talk about our talent, we kind of overlook it. We're like, man, because we're so accustomed to it, we're used to it. We're like, man, that whole thing, I've always done that. I've always had that, but that's nothing. Like we downplay it. And what I think about Moses. So when God came to Moses and said, hey, look, I need you to go into Egypt and deliver, and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Moses immediately started telling him why he was unqualified. I stutter, Lord, like I can't do it. All right, dude, look, I'm gonna give you your brother. You're gonna meet your brother Aaron, he's gonna talk for you. And he was still talking like, nah, I don't think I'm the right man for the job. And so God just asked Moses a really simple question. He said, dude, I'm making it personal. He's like, dude,
No, I got you.
what's in your hand though? And Moses looked, he was like, I just got this staff. He was like, put that staff on the ground. He put it on the ground, turned into a snake. He said, pick it up by the tail, turn it back into a staff. He just performed a miracle. He was like, take that with you, and you have everything that you need. And so a lot of times we look at our talent as like this little raggedy staff. Like, man, this is my walking cane. It's been with me for as long as this ain't nothing. But no, it's not. It is something. It's something special because it's another piece that makes you unique. And when you begin to kind of, I think of this equation that I'm telling you, this passion plus talent plus purpose. I think of it like a puzzle. And when you've got all these puzzle pieces, your job is to try and figure out how to get the right orientation and the right pieces together so that they fit and you begin to see the bigger picture of what it is you're putting together. And so that's how talent is. Like, I'm going to ask you in a moment what your talent is, what you believe your talent is. But before I do, because, sometimes I encountered some kids yesterday. They were like, I don't know what my talent is. I don't think I have one. And I'm like, no, you do have a talent, because talent doesn't just sprout out of nowhere. Talent is generational. Like, talent comes from your father and, your parents and your parents' parents. It's always making its way down the lineage and trying to manifest itself in some way, shape, or form in somebody's hand. That's like that recognizes, I got something special here. Let me see what I can do. And so how I think about this generational talent, or how I think most people identify it, is the same way. Like, if I ask somebody who's a genius, they will name everybody, they will name several people and not themselves, because we're good at identifying stuff in other people. If I ask somebody, hey, do you think that talent is generational? If I ask them if it's generational in their family, they might be like, I don't know about that. But if I say, well, what about the Jackson family? Oh yeah, that's generational talent. They daddy was a singer and he played the guitar, and now they recognize that. We recognize that talent is generational when it comes to entertainers. We recognize that is generational when it comes to athletes. Bronny about to come into the league, and LeBron wants to play with his son for the first year, right? Scottie Pippen Jr. is in the league now, tearing it up. We recognize that, but we always discredit and dissociate it from ourselves, not realizing that same mechanism is active in us. And so, as I prepare to ask you this question, just think about what it is that's in you that was in your father or your mother and your grandparents. And that might help you if you're like, hey, I don't know. So with that all said, what do you say? What do you identify as your talent, Virgil?
I'm a little stumped there as well, but as far as, because let me say this, is because, again, like you were saying, we always recognize talent and music and athleticism and things of that nature. And when you don't possess those things, you feel like you don't have a talent, right? Well,
Right.
I do. I'm gonna put it to you like that. I'm gonna speak for myself. I don't know about anybody else. But I'm not exactly 100% sure to say what my talent is. And that's been something that I've been toiling with for a while, to be honest with you. So I'm only being honest. I can't say 100% what it is. So.
And that's fine. But what's happening here in this interview, Virgil, is that the gears are starting to turn up.
Hmm.
Hopefully you're starting to say, like, I got something on the inside of me. I already know what I'm passionate about. And you're a human being just like everybody else on the planet. And if
Right.
I'm telling you that this mechanism of generational talent is active in you, just like it's active in, you know, athletes and entertainers, then
Hmm.
it might not come to you right now, but it's going to come to you. I believe it's going to come to you
I
because
believe that too, and I'm gonna let you know.
there's one of two reasons. One, you said that you've known Eric probably going on 20 years now, right? My cousin.
Yes. Yes.
Because we recognize things in other people, he might have told you some things about yourself over the past 20 years. Like, hey, Virgil, you're good at this. Have he ever told you anything like, you know what, I recognize that this is something that you do well? Not just Eric, but anybody.
What I've heard people say I do well. I've never been a teacher before, but they say that I would be a good teacher, right?
Okay.
They, I've heard that I am a good, I'm a good counselor. That's
Ah,
kind of like a natural thing, and that's what most friends and individuals that I converse with would say. I'm a good counselor. Um, of course, I didn't go to school for that, but again, they would
sometimes we
say
don't.
that. Right, right. And then a good some say that I'm a good like visionary and leader, but
Okay.
again, I don't see that. So that's on me. I can't, that's on me. Not again, my thinking and being conditioned to think a certain type of way. So
So
along
I was
those
going to ask
lines.
you too, like, what do you do for work?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I have a tax company and I have a credit restoration education business, and that's what I
Huh.
do.
See, you in it. So this is my theory that I have. When I interview people, I'm like, you probably already operating your genius. You're just not calling it that. This whole credit restoration thing involves counseling and it involves creating equity in an inequitable situation. Most of the time, people
Hmm.
get into bad credit situations because they've been uninformed about how credit works.
Correct.
Back to this whole thing that you're passionate about. Like we've been positioned to be ignorant about how money works and how credit
Hmm.
works. So we go spend it the wrong way, invest in the wrong things, don't realize that if I don't pay this bill for 4 or 5 months, that this is going to impact me in other areas of my
Right.
life
Right.
later on, and then can't figure out why I can't buy a house or why I can't get a car. Well, I imagine, Virgil, that you don't just help rich. You can't just, it's like, give a man, I don't know why I got all these fish metaphors today, but give a man
Right. Right.
to eat for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he will eat for a
Yeah,
lifetime.
that's
My
exactly
advice
correct.
is you don't put fish in people's hands. You teach somebody
No.
this is how you build credit. This is how you maintain good credit. You got to cut off
Correct.
some habits. You got to stop doing this. You got to stop doing that. You got to start doing these things, doing it this way. And I imagine, Virgil, that you don't do it in a way that makes a person feel less than. I
No,
imagine that
I don't.
that
I
you that
don't.
you that you're able to like say it in such a way that they can receive it. Because I mean, it could be, Virgil. I'm not trying to get into your business and project
Hmm.
anything on you or say anything about who you are, but you might have had some credit issues back in the day. I ran
Oh,
into
of
a guy
course.
who had some
Right.
credit issues back in the day, and now he does the same thing you do. He's like, I learned the hard way how to get my credit back on the right track, and now I'm geared to teach anybody else that will listen how to prevent their credit from getting bad and how to restore their credit if it's gotten bad.
That's correct. Yes, I've been in that boat. I experienced that. And again, it stemmed like I just said earlier, from the lack of knowledge and exposure to
Yes,
the information in order to understand it. So yes.
that word you just said is powerful. Exposure. Let me
Hmm.
tell you another story. I don't tell this
Okay.
often anymore, but when you
Okay.
use your word, it invoked this. So when I was younger, I was in like maybe third or fourth grade. I was recognized as like gifted. I was going to go into the talented and gifted program. I don't know where you grew up, but me and Eric grew up in Maryland, and so they had the tag program, talented and
Right.
gifted. And so I was in this school, this public school, that I had got placed into like in the fourth grade, because like kindergarten through fourth grade, I was in a Christian school. My sister graduated, so that means I had to leave and go to my local public school, right? So in fifth grade, I went to my local public school. I got tortured first and foremost, Virgil. I got tortured
I
because I
got
was
you.
different. I thought different. I dressed different.
Right.
And you know, kids being kids, they roasted me. They just was
Yeah.
like, never. And I finally started getting accepted by them. But I remember one time we were doing a trivia game, and I would just answer questions like, "Hey, I'll answer that question." Like nobody else answers it, I'll go. Whether I had the right answer or not wasn't important. I just felt like I could answer the question. And
Mm-hmm.
so the trivia question was this: what is the name of the song that's played during New Year's Eve? And I looked around and nobody said anything. And I was like,
Right.
Old Lang Syne. And the kids was like, what?
What?
Who are you? Right?
Right.
Matter of fact, they was like, you're a genius. Because by that time they
Right.
accepted me, right? And I'm like, no, I stopped them right there. I was like, I'm not a genius. At the time, fourth grade, fifth grade. I was like, look, let me explain to you how I know that. In my house, we had a programmable doorbell. So you could like it had A through Z, and that's like 26 different tunes that you could put when somebody hit your button, that it would just play a little tune.
Right.
Now, this was a cool feature, but Virgil, nobody in my house really cared about it but me. I was the shortest one, so I would have to go get a chair, and when it was Christmas, I would go find a Christmas tune and play that. And it'd be, it'd play, and I would change it throughout the seasons, right? So I just went through all of the songs, because I'm like, I don't recognize some of these songs. What are they? And then I got to this thing that was like, Old Lang Syne. I'm like, what is that? But when I played it, I was like, oh, that's New Year's.
Right. It's familiar.
And then my brain just locked it in. Like I love trivia. I would say random stuff all the time because I like information, right? And so that's not being smarter than them. That's just being exposed to something that they hadn't been exposed to.
Right.
And I recognize that in the fifth grade. I was like, don't call me smart for that. That's just me having a doorbell at my house, that I'm the only one that played with it to know what this thing was. And so I bring that back to your word for exposure. Like that's all genius is being exposed to, hey, I have something in me, and this is how it actually plays out in a way that's not how I've traditionally been told it works. And with your credit, like just exposing people to knowledge and wisdom that they just didn't have by no fault of their own. They just given an opportunity. And so I wanted you triggered me with that word exposure. So I'm going there. What I want to go back to really quickly is this counseling, because clearly that's something that's on the inside of you. Did you see that? Because my family is a family of counselors too. I talked to my mom. She don't like it because Big Mama passed away, her mom. So the mantle, I told her, I was like, oh, that mantle's going to pass to you though, Mama. And she's like one of the youngest of the siblings, but everybody comes to her for advice, not just the family, but just people in general. And sometimes she's like, oh, Gordon, I can't get any peace. People call me and tell me all that information like I don't have problems myself. And I'm like, Mom, it's because I said the same thing happens to me. The same thing happens to my sister, generation. So I'm saying that to say, do you see this counseling did you see it active in your parents or your grandparents?
I would have to say this. I wasn't raised by my parents, so I can't necessarily say that 100%. I know that they were very friendly. They had a lot of friends, but I don't know the dynamics of their friendship. And I was raised by my grandmother, and she was just like you said, she's the big mama. She took care of everything, and if anything was going wrong, somebody would come by, and so I guess, yeah.
There it is.
But I never viewed it as what she was doing as counseling. She was just taking care of business.
Yeah.
So and helping people out. So gotcha.
So, you get into this whole or is it nurture? Is it something that you're born with? Is it natural to you? Or do you learn it just by being around it? Is it nurtured in you? And it sounds like you living with her, you got it on both ends. It was now we're saying this thing is generational. So it was nature, it was natural to you.
Mhm.
Then the nurturing, she didn't have to teach you per se, but you just being around and seeing how she functions, seeing how she flows. Somebody comes with an issue and she says, okay, do this. Or maybe she said,
Mhm.
well, I don't have the solution. I can recommend you to somebody who does. But just connecting people, right? And advising
Mhm.
them, this is the way to go. And so that in a nutshell, we've gotten to the third part of the equation, but the third part of the equation is the easiest part because your purpose in life, Virgil, everyone's purpose in life is to identify what their God-given talent is, recognize that it's a tool, and that should be used toward
Mhm.
fixing the thing that's broken, that's going to be that driving force of your passion. If you can do that,
Mhm.
you're going to unlock your genius. And I say that I think you've already begun unlocking it. It's just sometimes it takes somebody to say what you're doing is this, for you to be like, oh,
Right.
all right. And now you just tilt a degree or two, and now you're functioning at a higher level.
Yeah. No, I get you. I get it. So, okay.
All right.
Yeah. 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 I'm processing it. So
Good. How long have you been helping people with their credit?
I really just started launching maybe about about 7, 8 months ago. I'm sorry.
Okay.
7 or 8 months ago, I decided, all right, I'm a launch and start doing it to see what's I would, as far as a business is concerned. So about 7 or 8 months. But I've been in the area for a couple of years. Prior to me launching, I worked at United Way, and my job description was a success coach, and pretty much we were
Hmm.
to preparing people to become homeowners. But before they became homeowners, there were a number of things they had to address, eliminate, correct, in order to actually get to the table. So, and most of that dealt with their finances and their credit. So,
Yep. That see you was already, and it's so beautiful when you can look back on your life and say like, okay, this is when it started to manifest. Sometimes I'm an entrepreneur now as well, but it took me
mhm.
opting out and then being like, okay, I have something that I need to put together myself. So I want to encourage you, being 7 to 8 months in, to keep doing what you
Yeah,
know now that what you're doing is operating in your genius. Because here's what I say is going to start to happen for you. You're going to start to get more and more clientele because of how you talk to people and what you're
mhm.
them. But beyond the clientele is going to get to a place where you're going to start training other people to be credit counselors as well, which is going to then expand your business because you're going to begin to have staff.
Right,
Now,
right,
most entrepreneurs start as a business of one, right? But
right,
you get
definitely.
multiplying yourself, even as your grandmother multiplied you, but it's multiplied herself in you and probably some other of your cousins who she might have raised up
Mhm.
because of this nurturing and this nurturing that's on the inside of what she had. But you're going to begin to bring other people underneath you and train them up so that they can then train up others and they can then teach others to improve their credit. And so this is you very much have a seed that's again, I'm a minister, and there's a scripture that
No,
says
that's good.
one plants, another waters, but God provides the increase. The planting
Right.
has already occurred. I feel like I'm here to water what's already in the ground for you, and that God's going to provide the increase. I see you multiplying in who you help and who you train to help others.
That's awesome. I greatly appreciate it. But you keep going back to being a minister. My other grandmother has been a pastor all my life before she
Okay.
transitioned. So I've been in church all my life.
All right.
So definitely, and all my uncles and aunts just about on that side are either minister of music or pastors and things of that nature. So I get it. Trust me.
And that makes sense to me now because that's why I sense this gentleness that you have and being able to, because it's hard to talk to people about money. They get offended, easily. But I feel like
Right,
you
right,
have a
right.
spirit about you where you're not gonna, that offense is not gonna pop up because of how you come at them. And that comes from, all a minister is a servant, someone who serves another person and makes them feel important. And so this is very much a ministry for me, what I do in helping people understand just how fearfully and wonderfully they have been made in this genius
Right.
they have. And so even as we begin to close out the interview, I just want to, do you have a name for your company?
It's Dispute Authority.
Dispute Authority. All right.
Yes, sir.
So we're
Yes,
going to
sir.
look for that because this is meant to be mutually beneficial. This is not just about my workshop and my book. This is about
Right.
what you got going. I want people to know what
Okay.
you do as well so they can seek you
Yeah.
out locally
And
and remotely.
yes, yes. I mean, I got a website and everything. That's how I get my customers, and they sign up for consultation. So yes, the Dispute Authority. That's the name of it. Yeah.
Well, look, that's it. So I'm gonna end this interview the same way I started it. I was gonna ask you the same question and see if it's changed any. Virgil,
Okay.
do you see yourself as a genius?
I definitely see myself having some genius traits. I'm definitely. I can say I can. Yes.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
this interview has done its job, man. I
Yeah. Yeah.
appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Thank you for coming on and being willing and open to hearing what it is that I had to say. This has been Reggie Key, your guest, your host, motivational speaker, author, and publisher of Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny through Inkwell Spoken and Manu Forte Ministries. And this has been my genius guest, Virgil Greene.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Make sure you pick up the book, Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny by my dad, Reggie Legend, available on Amazon and at inkwellspoken.com. Connect with us at Inkwellspoken on all social media platforms. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.